Did you know that the experience of menopause can last 10 years and has a profound impact on the relationship we have with ourselves? Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Regeter, and today I'm joined by the Midlife Whisperer, Dr. Ellen Albertson. In today's episode, we're discussing the challenges of midlife and menopause, exploring the hormonal and internal shifts that occur. We'll delve into the emotions of guilt and shame that can surface during this time and discover the powerful intersection of self-compassion, self-love, and self-care as we navigate these changes. Join us as Dr. Albertson empowers you on your journey through midlife and beyond. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited for our conversation. But before we begin, I really just want to check in with you. How are you really?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little tired and gosh, summer's winding down and that's always a little bit of an emotional thing. And I'm just off a 461-day breast cancer journey. So I'm good, but lots of changes.
It's the end of the summer time. It's so exhausting, at least for me. I think with the time of day, it gets darker a lot earlier. And I need the light. I need the sunlight. And by the end of the summer, when it's no longer like sunny at 9 p.m., my whole day is thrown off and I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, well, that's a clear sign to try to get a little rest in. I think that, we're so used to just going like 24/7 all the time. And it's so important to give ourselves rest. Like, our ancestors, as the seasons shifted, people got more sleep, people rested more. I mean, summer, the height of the summer, July, August, we're up and we're having fun and we're playing. And I think as things start to shift, just as nature slows down and the trees kind of go into hibernation, I think we need to do a little bit of that, checking in ourselves and it's sort of slowing down and changing our pace. But it's hard to do in the world that we live in.
Absolutely. It's so hard to do, especially when so much is constantly changing and we're kind of trying to figure out where we are. I mean, our body's always changing. And our conversation today is really going to be focused on that menopausal period and how our bodies are changing, or how bodies are changing, how so much extra kind of pressure is being in stress because there's not a lot of conversation. And there's a lot of fear over what's happening to my body. Am I still young? What does this mean for me? Just all these different things, this piece of shame. And I'm speaking based on how like my family explains it to me. I'm far from it at this point. But it's really overwhelming when things are changing, whether it's like the weather outside or things happening in our bodies.
Yeah, it really is. And we're kind of going from that, summer season into that fall season. And I think that we are talking more about it. And I love that we're having this conversation about menopause and about midlife. And I know even in the last 5 years or so, we're talking a lot more about it. I know, like when my mother went through that change, like nobody talked about it. I kind of remember her feeling differently, maybe like being a little moodier, but there was a lot of shame around this totally natural process. So I think the first thing to say is that this is normal, this is natural. Most people in female bodies are going to go through the menopausal change, and it's a shift in your hormones. So your body starts producing less estrogen. That creates all kinds of changes in your body. But I think we can kind of change that conversation to, oh my God, I'm going through menopause, this is so hard, I can't deal, to, okay, this is a natural transition. And just kind of as the caterpillar goes into the butterfly, how do I want to transform in this chrysalis period? I mean, I think it's a period of time where if you haven't been listening to your body starts to speak up. It's super important to take care of your physical self even more, because as estrogen drops, inflammation goes up. We also have a higher risk of things like osteoporosis, heart disease, dementia. So it's really important to like talk to your doctor, or if your doctor doesn't want to talk about it or know about it, find a new physician who will support you and say, okay, so how do I want to go through this transition? How can I support myself? What do I want to do, both in terms of conventional medicine as well as complementary medicine? How do I want to, sail through this period? And then who do I want to be? Because I think the cool thing is right now we're living a lot longer than our ancestors did. So, I mean, it's totally given that a lot of people are going to live into their 80s or 90s, even to 100. Like I know people who are 100 years old. So if you're kind of saying, well, I'm going through menopause at 40 or 50, it's like, okay, but I've got another 40, 50 years ahead of me. So how am I going to set myself up for success in terms of my body, my brain, my emotions, my spirit, my relationships, so that I can really make these golden years awesome? So I can basically rock your midlife, which is kind of what my work's all about, is helping women to embrace this period of time, to look at it as a natural transformation, to use it to kind of edit where they're at so that they can really flourish at midlife.
I love the shift into how can you flourish, right? How can you be prepared and set up and have the tools you need to not just get through it, but to thrive through it. I think a lot of times, at least for the conversations that I think I've been exposed to, when it comes to anything with like the female hormones and body, it's always like, this happens to you, right? Like this happens to you. And that's kind of the extent of the conversation, where it's like, for early menstruation, it's like, you're going to get cramps. It's going to suck. You're going to bleed for this many days. Like, you're going to get moody. Like, those were the conversations I think that I was really exposed to. And then on the menopause side, hearing like hot flashes, a lot of mood instability and changes. And I think that that conversation for so long for a lot of people, I don't know about everybody, but for a lot of people, I think it's been like, this happens to you. These are kind of like the not fun side effects of what's happening to you, but not how you can prepare to get through it in a healthy way that sets you up for this next chapter of your life.
Yeah, well, that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I think it's so great that you're having this conversation with me. And so many people are having these conversations about midlife and menopause. And I think, my 7 steps, the first step is to really know yourself. So a lot of times in our life, we're like climbing up this ladder of success, we're people pleasing, we're doing things for other people. And we kind of get to the top of the ladder and we look around and we're like, why am I not happy? It's because our ladder is up against the wrong building. And I think menopause is, midlife is this great time. And at all times in your life, if you're finding that you're not happy, like, are you on your own path, right? If you know yourself and you're on your right path, you're climbing up this ladder of success, you're moving forward with your dreams and your goals, but it's up against the right building. I know for myself, so much of the early part of my life, I was like doing all of these things that I thought like society said, you're supposed to do these things, or I thought make my parents proud, or, you look at social media and you think, well, this is what being happy is about. And you're the only one who can figure out what happy means for you. And so you've got to really know yourself, know your strengths, your genius zones, your weaknesses as well. Like, what are you awesome at? What do you need some help with? What would you do all day if you could? So it's a great time to really know yourself. That's super important. It's like step 1. And step 2 is loving yourself. And this is really all about making self-compassion your superpower. And I was fortunate enough to discover self-compassion in midlife in my 40s. And before that, I was like totally type A, super critical, perfectionist, workaholic. And what I learned about self-compassion is I learned to be kind to myself rather than critical. So when you're struggling, you've got this inner voice that you can turn to. If you're going through menopause or any changes in life, like I know you're working, balancing school and family issues, we're always doing these things. We can be kind to ourselves. We can treat ourselves the way we would a good friend. So you're kind rather than critical. You understand that when things go wrong, it's normal, right? So often when things go wrong, when we're like having a tough day or a tough period in our life, we're like, oh my God, this shouldn't be happening. Or how did I get myself in this? Yeah, we beat ourselves up, right? And then with self-compassion, you realize, oh, common humanity, making mistakes, things going wrong, it's normal. It's part of being human. And so you don't feel so isolated and alone. And then you can give yourself what you need, which is the third piece, which is being mindful, noticing when you are struggling and saying, okay, I'm struggling right now. I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask, what do I need right now? So, women going through menopause, if you're having a bad day, if you've got hot flashes and or night sweats, you didn't sleep all the night before, maybe you can call your, boss, call in at work and say, can I work from home today? You're having, a difficult moment, you can take a 5-minute break and get a breath of fresh air, go outside, but instead of just plowing forward and saying, okay, I'm going to we're taught in our society, I'm going to suck it up and plow through, going to give myself what I need. So that self-compassion piece is so important. And it's really a parachute and a life vest. So it's a life vest when you are struggling, when things do go wrong, you're having a bad day, it can help you get through the difficult periods in your life. And it's also a parachute when you want to go after those goals, those dreams, you go for it, because if you fail, you've got this self-compassion parachute. Like, I can pick myself up, I can sort of dust myself off, say, what did I learn? And learn from my experiences, and then move forward towards success. So self-compassion, loving yourself is number 2. Number 3 is energizing yourself. And so at every point in our life, it's so important that we take care of our physical bodies. But I think at midlife, if you've been kind of ignoring your body and kind of living on caffeine and sugar, and maybe doing a little too much alcohol, our bodies start to speak to us. We're like, oh, I don't feel so good. I don't have great energy. And so in this step, I really share what people need to know, and particularly midlife women need to know about nutrition, about stress management, about exercise, and about sleep. And nutrition is really about, you need more protein. So after 50, we need about 50% more protein to keep that muscle mass up, because that actually decreases. So making sure you're getting the right balance of protein, fat, and carbohydrates, making sure that you're eating a whole food plant-based diet. So are you eating mostly plants? Doesn't mean you need to go vegan, but plant foods really help keep the inflammation at bay. They can also help prevent some of the weight gain that often accompanies menopause. Again, normal, estrogen goes down, weight gain sometimes happens. And making sure, you're moving your body every day, you're getting cardio, you're getting strength training, again, to keep that muscle mass up, working on preserving your bones. And then also making sure that you're resting, taking breaks throughout the day, managing your stress, and then getting sleep. I've just been so astounded at how important sleep is for all of us, right? Yeah, we need to get adequate sleep. When we're sleeping, that's really when our body is repairing, when our brain is consolidating all of our memories and processing things. So I know for me, that's been my biggest wellness challenge, is getting more sleep, making sure that I have quality and quantity. So that's 3, is energizing yourself. And number 4 is reprogramming your brain. I'm sure you talk a lot about this on your podcast, about this idea that neuroplasticity, right? We can change the wiring of our brains through our thoughts, and our thoughts affect our emotions and affect our actions. And so in this step, I really help people it's not just always about being positive, but it's about, reframing. It's about noticing your thoughts. Which thoughts do I want to hold on to and expand on? Which thoughts do I want to kind of, analyze and look at? And we really can change the structure of our brains. Myself personally, I had clinical depression in my 40s. Yeah, I was taking antidepressants, which I totally support people who are going through depression. It's one of many things to help you, but I now are no longer on them. I don't have depression anymore because I've reprogrammed my brain through self-compassion, meditation, working on my mindset. So reprogramming your brain to feel good. And then number 5 is empower yourself, because what happens is you start to feel authentic, right? You're being your true self, yourself, you're starting to love yourself and practice self-compassion. You're energetically feeling really good because you're taking care of your body. You've reprogram your brain. And now you're ready to step out and do all of those things on your bucket list, those things you want to do. Maybe you want to change careers, go on that dating app, do some traveling. You want to feel empowered. So this is where you really take all of the first 4 steps and say, okay, now it's time for me to step outside my comfort zone and really do those things that make me feel good. And also understand that empowerment is from the inside out. I'm working on how am I feeling, right? How am I magnetizing what it is that I want to have happen in my life, what I want to manifest at midlife. And then we get to step 6, which is one of my favorite steps. Deep breath. It's rehab your relationships, because what happens is you start to feel like that butterfly, right? You are feeling empowered and energized, and you're feeling good about yourself and authentic. But the people in your life, they're like, no, you're still the caterpillar. They literally will see you as the caterpillar, because we see things as we are, not as they really are. And what that can do is they can try to pull you back into your former self, because you could be like a threat to them, or you don't fit in with where they're at. I mean, I know a lot of women I work with, maybe they're making some big changes in their life, and a lot of people in their life are not on board with the changes. So this is where you learn things like creating boundaries and letting that people pleaser, that good girl go. Actually, people create a personal bill of rights around what they're going to stand for. Like, I deserve to love myself. I deserve to express my emotions. I deserve to be able to do self-care and take care of myself. And then I teach people something called non-violent communications, which is a technique where you are able to express how you are feeling, be objective about what's going on, and then ask to get your needs met. So that's rehab your relationships. And then finally, ta-da, we get to the mountaintop, and it's about enlightening yourself, which is really not, it can be about, your spiritual practices, but it's really about finding purpose and meaning in your life. But the cool thing about the steps is you can enter anywhere you'd like. So you can start, with step 1, authenticity. Personally, I started with self-compassion. I was fortunate enough to find this practice as part of my research for my dissertation. And that was like 10 years ago, and it changed my life. And so, but you can start anywhere. But the point is just to start, right? If you're feeling really stuck, and I think that happens at midlife, women I talk to are just feeling so incredibly stuck. They don't know what to do. And so they kind of are, procrastinating, or, they're trying to like be their former self. And so just start with one thing. I think the loving yourself piece, the learning self-compassion, just to say, man, I'm having hot flashes today. I don't feel like myself today, but I'm here for me. And saying, if I had a good friend who was going through menopause, what would I say to her? How would I treat her? And then seeing, can I treat myself in the same way? But I think the self-compassion piece is a beautiful place to start. Whether you're going through menopause or not, if you want transformation, starting with that self-love and becoming that supportive presence in your own life. And of course, getting a coach or a therapist is always powerful too. If you're feeling stuck, a good coach, a good therapist can get you from A to Z a lot faster than you can yourself.
Absolutely. And we're, like you said in the beginning, we're conditioned. I don't think condition is a strong word, but we are very much taught to, especially as women, to have these certain roles, to be the caretaker, to take care of people, to put ourselves last. And then with the rise of social media, constantly comparing ourselves. I know I spent hours looking at like supermodels Instagram pages going, why don't I look like that? Yeah. And it's really can be overwhelming. And I think in more recent years, we've seen a big shift of women in the workplace and seen kind of the dynamic change where some dads will stay home now, or they'll have more of a balance between the two. But I imagine for generations above mine that it was not the same. So now you're getting to kind of this period in menopause where right now the world's changed a lot. If you chose to have kids, your kids are probably out of the house, they're in college. Maybe you're kind of switching from the role of taking care of the house and taking care of your kids to maybe taking care of a parent and a loved one, and just not really getting to have a lot of time for yourself, to see yourself, to love yourself. And in the midst of all of that, it's really difficult when there's so much changing and you're blaming yourself. You're like, something's wrong with me. I can't do this. And then just constant self-criticism. I just can't imagine at that. I mean, I feel like as a caretaker myself now, I'm overwhelmed and stressed. And it's only on one end, being a caretaker. So to get to that point in life and not have those tools has to be really difficult. So I love that you are actually providing kind of like a roadmap to get the tools that really, like, you should be taught self-compassion way earlier in life. But I love that you're giving that tool to people.
Yeah, well, I think we're taught to look for what's wrong with us rather than what's right. And I mean, that happens in childhood, right? The self-critic is the internalized voice of early caregivers. When our caregivers say, clean your room, finish your plate, food on your plate, get good grades. We're, as little kids, we're like, oh, if I don't do those things, I won't be cared for. I won't be loved. I might be abandoned. And then we get to be adults. we internalize that voice of early caregivers. But when you start to become mindful and notice, when you feel that inner critic, like it has a certain tone, I do this a lot with my clients. We do something called internal family systems, where we're actually like, okay, bring up that voice of the self-critic. What is its tone? What does it look like? A lot of times they're like, well, it's like Ursula in The Little Mermaid, right? It's this horrible, evil character, but giving it space and then giving it another role, or even saying, you sit over there and you make sure that I'm safe. And then starting to give some fresh air to this voice of self-compassion that says, I love you and I want you to be successful. But it's very different. Before I discovered self-compassion, I was this personal trainer dietitian that was like all about getting everybody skinny. It's like, it was about, you got to beat yourself up to have the perfect body, whatever that means. And we never got there because body image is in your mind. It has nothing to do with your body. And I, love that you mentioned, the social comparison piece. Supermodels, dancers have horrible body image. These people that are like our icons of beauty, because we're always focusing on those flaws. And like with self-compassion, you can start to look at your body as, wow, look at all my body can do for me. But the cool thing is that practicing self-compassion actually can help improve your body image. What my research showed is that simply practicing self-compassion, listening to self-compassion meditations for an hour a week, reduce body shame, body dissatisfaction, self-worth based on appearance, and improve body appreciation. So by practicing self-compassion, being kinder to ourselves, we actually can, look ourselves in the mirror and say, thank you, body, for like getting me through this day. And it's so important in midlife too, because, our bodies are changing and we don't look like that ideal anymore, which is usually thin and young, right? And we look and we've got wrinkles and age spots and, bumps and lumps. And so we can start to appreciate all our body does for us. I remember this when I was, just right after I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I was on my yoga mat and I was just feeling horrible about my body, like everything. Even though I practice self-compassion, this stuff comes up. I was like, why is this happening to me? This shouldn't be happening to me. I'm a wellness coach. Like, what the heck? I'm supposed to be this icon of well-being. But then there was this other voice that whispered and said, my God, look at what your body can do. There's like this tiny little dime-sized tumor that you can't even feel. Right. And then 99.9% of your body is fabulous and working for you. And so I really navigated the breast cancer diagnosis with self-compassion and with well-being. As a well-being, I wasn't like focusing on that. I was focusing on staying really healthy and well and taking care of what I needed to take care of for the breast cancer. But we are really programmed to look at what's wrong with us rather than what's right, particularly for perfectionists.
We absolutely are. And when it comes to our bodies, so early on, we're kind of taught, like you said, about wrinkles, right? So then it's like getting Botox at a young age and being like, I need to prevent wrinkles. I need to start early. I know people who are in their 20s getting Botox to prevent wrinkles. And if that's what people want to do, like absolutely more power to you. But to think that you're not allowed to have wrinkles is really disheartening because it's what happens to our body. Like, we get wrinkles and it may not seem like the most exciting thing in the world, but it's okay. And it's like there's so much obsession with wanting to prevent the like aging process that people are starting to hate things about themselves that haven't even happened yet. And that's so disheartening because by the time these things start to happen, you're already just kind of shattered by it.
Yeah, we're actually, there's so much self-loathing that's happening. I'm amazed that people in their 20s are using Botox. Botox does not prevent wrinkles. It just relaxes the lines so they may appear less. But I don't know, I look at my, my gray hair, which I've let go. I should let it go natural, which I love. And my lines is like, there's scars, there's a life well lived. So we have to, constantly reframe that conversation. And it's important because people who are at midlife and beyond have so much to teach us, right? I think one of the reasons I'm such a good life coach is that I have lived. Like when I see people who are in their 20s life coaching, I'm like, well, have you experienced a lot of these things? Like, how much do you know? And we have so much wisdom to share with the world. And I think it's just, again, our culture and our media wants people to feel, particularly women, bad about themselves so that we will purchase things and lean into consumerism to feel better, which we do. We're like, oh, we shop, we eat, we drink, we game, we do all of these things. We do Netflix because we're trying to distract ourselves from what's bothering us. If we felt good about ourselves, if we were our own best friend, we wouldn't need to run to stuff to feel better. And the problem is when we run to stuff, when we do the emotional eating or the drinking or the TV, all of those things, not only have we engaged in a dysfunctional behavior that we might feel guilty and bad about, but we're not addressing the issue. So if you're feeling, not great about how you're aging, explore that with, a coach, with a therapist, and think about, how can I feel better about myself? How can I rewrite my story? How can I create an amazing future for myself so that, when I get towards the end of my life and I look back at this period of my life, I can say, wow, I'm so glad that I transformed and I did all of these things. So I'm not in this place of regret, towards the end of my life when it really is too late to transform.
Yeah, and I think there's this idea that by the time you're in your 30s, that it's too late. And I think that's why there's so much pressure, I think, in your 20s. I mean, I'm speaking from my experience.
Yeah.
For in our 20s, there's so much pressure that you need to figure it out now because life's getting started and you don't want to have to make a change later on in life because you have maybe a family or bills or all these different things that rely on your stability. So you need to have it figured out now. That's the messaging I'm getting. So I can't imagine older on in life, people are afraid to make changes because you're kind of conditioned at a young age to figure it out now and stick with it. And it can be scary when you wake up one day and it's like, I don't even know if this is what I enjoy doing. I did a master's in information systems a few years back. I thought I wanted to code, did not enjoy it. And luckily I was still in my early 20s. So I was able to make that shift. But a lot of my friends in my classes, they maybe didn't enjoy it and they went into the career with that. And they're like, that's just what I have to do. I'm like, it's really unfortunate that we're constantly thinking it's too late to make changes, that there's no time left. There's hopefully for a lot of us, there's lots of time left to figure out who you want to be. And that can change so many times throughout your life. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's really important to figure out, again, that authenticity and what's really going to make you happy. Because what I find a lot is that women get to midlife and they have a career and they put 20 years into it. And they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So what I share, with my kids and people in your generation is figure out what it is you're really going to like to do. Like myself, I went to an Ivy League and I majored in economics. And it's like, I'm not interested in economics, right? I kind of wasted aspects of my education. So it is really important to give yourself permission, but there is a lot of pressure to figure all of that out. And I guess I'm here to say, we never fully figure it out. We are always works in progress. I think no matter how old we get, I know I'm still growing, changing, learning, expanding, and trying to do things in new ways. But I think that piece too that isn't one of those steps, but learning to listen to your intuition. I think in our culture, we're so taught to lean into this left brain. So to lean into our intellectual brain, and we really turn off this creative, intuitive side that can help us to navigate which direction to go into.
Yes, we're taught to be so kind of logical and everything. And it's really great to make decisions based on looking at your resources, right? That's a very important piece to look at. But I also think that if your gut's telling you to do something, it's worth listening to. And maybe you aren't in the position where you can jump all in right now, but maybe there's something small that you can do, right? A step you can take toward what you want. So I think a lot of people just completely write it off because they're like, I'm just not in the position yet. So if you're listening, I hope you listen to yourself and maybe take that one step toward whatever it is. You can't jump all in. It's okay. One step at a time.
Yeah, and maybe do some informational interviewing, ask yourself, I ask this question to my clients all the time. What did you want to be when you were little? Like for me, I wanted to be a writer, which is a big part of what I do, which is awesome. I also wanted to be a dancer, which was not a direction that my family actually supported. So I didn't go in that direction, but I love to dance now. And it's something I love doing, dance videos and just inspiring people and staying fit with that. So it's also that, you can also explore things that aren't necessarily vocational. So I have a lot of my clients, keep your day job, but start creating like a side hustle or a hobby or exploring new things that you really, really want to do. But like you said, it's never too late, give yourself that freedom and listen to that voice, whether it's like a job or it's a partner or whatever it is. It's so important to live your life because we're here to make a difference, but we're also here to experience life, to be souls having an earth experience, being in this earth school. We're here to learn, to grow, and a big piece of that is leaning into those things that truly interest you and light you up. I think we know that, right? I think we know, like I know I've always been interested in development and self-growth, and it's a big part of who I am and what I do. And I love public speaking and inspiring people. I think we know. So I think a coach can help you out a lot too, to do a deep dive on what your strengths are, what you love to do, really exploring, getting to know yourself on a deeper level so that you can create a life path that's really in alignment with your soul.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that, going back to when you were younger, what you wanted to be. And for me, it's so funny. In my high school file, it actually says want to be Oprah Winfrey. Like I always love the idea of inspiring someone. I want my own talk show one day. So that's what's in my actual high school file. My guidance counselor hated me. She was like, you need an actual career. I was like, Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to be Oprah. So and it's what I'm working toward. But I think that it's really important to listen to yourself because, I mean, I'll go back to like myself. I was on that track for information systems and coding, and I am very like worst coder ever. So bad. Cried in every class, cried during the exams. Terrible. But when I struggled myself with my mental health and I kind of was forced to take a step back and realized what I liked to do when I was younger, that's what I've always wanted to do. And I think that so important that we listen to who we were before society told us we had to be someone else. Like society told me, everyone around me was telling me technology is the future. You need to go into this. And if that's not what I was told, highly, highly believe I would not have tried to go into coding. So I think it's really important to look at who you were before anyone told you who you had to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you made that pivot. And let's face it, how many people need mental health support? And I love too that you're like, I'm going to be Oprah Winfrey. And here you are with an awesome podcast, inspiring people every day and actually doing that thing. And we really can manifest it. And I think we think so much in terms of the paycheck, right? Like, don't make a career move based on the paycheck. Yes, find a career that you can support yourself and your family. But so many people, go into something like technology because they're like, okay, that's the future. That's how I need to make a paycheck, when it's really not in alignment. And we're all here to do specific things. Not everyone is made to be a coder. Like my husband is a coder. He's in the next room and that's what he does all day. He's a verification engineer and he really likes it and he's awesome at it. But I'd be like, no, I couldn't do that he's like, we should learn coding. You can do that. I'm like, no, it's not me. It's not who I am. So we're all here to do different things. And it's like giant, 7 to 8 billion people, all puzzle pieces, all here to make the world a better place.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot of shame in doing something different, right? So a lot of people are afraid to make that shift, make that change, because what is everyone else my age doing? What are all my peers doing? And going back and forth on that comparison of, oh, they have their careers that they've been working toward and they're the executives and they love what they're doing. And I should love what I'm doing. I should be doing the same. I can't make changes. I think a lot of it comes down to like this fear of what other people will think. And I know for some of my loved ones, I feel like they're going to yell at me all the time when I talk about them on my podcast. But like some of my loved ones, they're like, I just don't know if I can make a change because everyone my age is doing this. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to continue on in this career path. I'm supposed to stay with the job, stick it out, and just retire in my 60s. And that's it. And it's like, that's one really, really great path. If that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. But to sit there and kind of compare, that's because that's what everyone else is doing, instead of getting to make some kind of shift. Even if it's changing the company and changing the environment, if it's changing your career, if it's picking up, like you said, an extra hobby, doing something different, making time for yourself instead of feeling so much shame over, this is what everyone else's life looks like from the outside, mine needs to look like this too.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we define success for ourselves. Sometimes it's much easier to look outside ourselves and, look at what, our parents say or what, our guidance counselor says we need to do instead of looking from within. And I find, again, when people come to me at midlife and they're like, I hate what I do. I don't want to do it anymore. I wanted to be a dancer or a potter or, a therapist or a coach or something when I was little. And now they're feeling like, I want to make that change. If you're your age, is the time to really explore and figure it out. I mean, I love Maya Angelou's quote, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. Really liking yourself, knowing yourself, liking what you do. And then that shame piece, I'm glad that you brought that up, friend, because shame is like feeling like I'm bad.
Yeah.
Right. So we really need to get away from feeling like you're bad because you want to explore what's right for you in terms of the work that you're doing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so frustrating to see how many people think like something's wrong with me or I'm bad, or just kind of criticize themselves for wanting to be more authentic to who they are. And again, going back to like the early beginning of this conversation, it's okay if things change. It's okay if who you were at 20 is not who you are at 50. You don't have to be the same person. I hope that I've changed in some way between 20 and 50 because I have a lot of growing to do and I totally need to get there one day, and I hope I do. But it's okay if things change, if what you liked back then isn't what you love now, and not feeling like something's wrong with you because 30 years have passed and you've changed. Of course you've changed in 30 years. We're not supposed to be the same person forever. We're supposed to grow. It's what life is. It gives us so many twists and turns and stressors so that we can grow and we can rediscover new pieces of ourselves all the time.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's where, that again, that self-compassion piece is just such a nice, supportive modality to take with you on your journey. So if you're scared because you're moving in a new direction, or you're feeling a little shame because you're moving in a direction that, society or people don't think it's right, you can turn to yourself and say, well, I'm here to support myself. Like, this is me. And we're really we can only make ourselves happy, right? I think that's another thing that we do. We kind of bend ourselves into a pretzel, trying to make everybody around us happy. And we never take the time to focus on what is truly going to make me happy. And that really is also disabling other people, because everybody is responsible for their own happiness and well-being. We can support people, but we each have to decide what it is we want to do, who we are, how we want to make a difference in the world, what lights us up. So I'm so glad that you made that switch from IT. It's like, my son is 22 and he's studying engineering. He likes it, but then he's also studying music technology, which is his dream of being like a music producer. So he's kind of doing both. So we can play around with it. And I think that there's so many new careers that are coming up, new ways of working, new ways of balancing, family and work. So I think that there's going to be a lot of changes in the world, but it really starts with each of us deciding what does success mean for me as an individual. It's not just about your bank account.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an easy metric. It's like weight, right? It's like, I can have these numerical, metrics, but like really doing a deep dive of like, what does success feel like to me, and starting to feel that now.
Yes, what it feels like. I think that's a key word, because like you said, it often is that number, right? And that number is going to change as the cost of living changes. So it's really, really hard when success is a specific number. But when it's a feeling, when you feel fulfilled, when you feel secure, when you feel happy and content. I mean, I guess it's different for everyone what that success looks like, but paying attention to how you feel instead of just that number that you can compare to someone else is a
Yeah, I
huge.
love that. Yeah, that you're saying feeling, because feeling is so important, because feeling is really what manifests what you want, right? So your thoughts about who you want to be, what you want to do are kind of like the blueprint if you want to manifest something, but the emotion is what magnetizes it. So feeling good about yourself now, when I work with clients, we start so much from the inside out. So often people start from the outside thinking, I'll change everything on the outside. I'll change my hair color, I'll change my job, I'll change my spouse, I'll change my house, I'll move, I'll do these things, but nothing changes in the inside. It's like we have to change how we feel, and we have to feel worthy of creating a life that we love. When I'm, again, working with people, I see the biggest ceiling is they put a ceiling on their happiness because they don't feel deserving and worthy of having it all, of having the life that they love. And I would add to success too, is having the sense of flow where the day goes by so fast because you love what you do. You look forward to going to work in the morning. You're doing something that you're really made to do. Your bank account is healthy too, and it works with the lifestyle that you want. So you can have it all, but a big piece of that is, again, just going back to that self-love of feeling really worthy of creating a life that you love, and then getting support too, surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, not the people who tell you, you shouldn't be doing that, but the people who are your cheerleader. And then again, creating that inner cheerleader for yourself through self-compassion.
Absolutely. It's so important to form that inner cheerleader and to be able to love yourself, because it's so difficult. I'll say for my mom, she spent, I don't know, the last 25 years, I'm 25. So the last 25 years where her happiness was dependent on if I was happy. If I was sad, she was sad. If my brother was sad, she was sad. We were happy, she was happy. And her entire day was structured around us, right? Making sure we were at school, making sure we had food, making sure we were at our sports practices, getting to work in between and figuring it all out. And then suddenly now she's in her 50s and both of her kids have moved out of the house and we're in school and we're not there every day for her to kind of structure her life around. And she's learning to find happiness outside of our emotions. And that has to be so difficult, because when for so long, you're kind of conditioned to take care of everyone else and everything else and never listen to yourself. She's learning to listen to herself for the first time and understand how she's feeling. And that is a very overwhelming journey. And I love that I get to witness it with her, because I'm learning that I should always pay attention to my emotions throughout life, and that how much she really put into her happiness, into how I was feeling, which is amazing. But it is so important, I think, to find happiness and compassion for yourself instead of compassion for every single person around you, and never putting any time and effort into acknowledging yourself and supporting yourself.
Yeah, and it's also important to work through the empty nest, because I think particularly for women, and women like your mom, who really their whole identity and all of their their happiness was wrapped up in being a mom, and then all of a sudden your kids leave and you just have this huge hole, which can be really difficult. So you kind of need to go through kind of like the grieving stages of acceptance and and grieving and processing and working through it, and then also celebrating your kids moving on, and also celebrating that, oh, I'm 50 now and I have all of this time and space, and how do I want to fill it? I love when I work with people always thinking about that word, what do I want to do? Not what do I need to do, what do I have to do, but all of a sudden you've got this space for, what do I want to do? Do I want to travel? Do I want to learn a new skill? Do I want to redecorate that bedroom and turn it into a craft room? What is it that would really make me happy? And I think that can be hard a lot of times when women go there. I'm sure men too, but the guilt comes up, right? When we start to really do things for ourselves. And so to start to understand that, guilt is an emotion, and to kind of let it be like Teflon and say, okay, guilt's trying to help me, but is this in alignment with my values? Like, there's nothing wrong with me traveling, decorating the bedroom, doing new hobbies, doing more of what I love. And so processing that, because I think if we spend our lives doing everything for everybody else, all of a sudden, when we put ourselves first and think, what do I want to do? The guilt can come up and it can really freeze us unless we get really mindful and start to work through it.
Yes. And then there's this idea that putting yourself first is selfish. So it's like the first time in your life, you're putting yourself first. And it's like, oh, I'm being so selfish. Why am I acting this way? And I know, like, for my mom, she's like, I just need to be selfish right now. And I'm like, yes, but no. I'm like, you don't have to word it that way, because it's not being selfish. Putting yourself first and exploring what you enjoy doing and doing things that you enjoy is not being selfish. 25 years doing everything for me. Thanks. But like, it's not being selfish. And I think that's a key word that people have attached to putting themselves first and taking care of themselves and their own happiness, is that it's selfish. So then, of course, you feel guilty when you think that selfish has become such a negative term. So of course you feel guilty if you think you're doing something wrong, when it's like something you need to do. Like, you deserve to put yourself first.
Yeah, it's something that we want to do too. And you're actually doing your family a favor if you're taking care of yourself. And it doesn't need to be crazy. It's not like self-care is all about, massages and mani-pedis. It can just be like micro things you do throughout your day. Even staying, starting your day and saying, I'm just going to like lie here in bed for 30 seconds and just enjoy the sensation of, feeling the bed, and doing a little gratitude. And I'm going to just enjoy my shower in the morning, maybe get a beautiful soap and enjoy my ride to work, listen to nice music, or appreciate nature. I'm going to take a walk at lunchtime, or I'm going to, take little micro breaks throughout my day. I'm going to enjoy my meal and fix myself beautiful, healthy food. So, self-care is really, it's a practice, and we shouldn't feel selfish about doing it. It's like so important that we're nourishing our body, our mind, our heart, and our spirits.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, it can be so many just small things that we do. It can be, like you said, sleeping for a few more minutes, giving yourself some extra time. It can be a cup of tea before bed. It can be a phone call with someone. It can be a walk. It can be snuggling with your dog. It can be anything you want it to be that makes you feel good. And it's just adding that intention to it, right? It's adding that piece of intention. I'm doing this for me to help myself feel better, to help myself feel more calm and present in the moment. Whatever it is your intention is, it doesn't have to be like what social media showed us. It doesn't have to be going for expensive massages and facials and spending thousands of dollars on skincare. It can be something as simple as, I'm going to just take 30 minutes, unplug, and have a cup of tea before bed.
Right. Or I'm just going to stay hydrated. I'm just going to or I'm going to get myself a standing desk and make sure that I move throughout my day. So, and I love that you mentioned that intention piece. So if we do the self-care with this intention of practicing self-compassion and giving ourselves what we need, it kind of elevates the practice even more.
Absolutely, it does. And as we are wrapping up, what is one piece of advice you could offer someone a woman who's in that 40s and 50s, starting to go through menopause, feeling maybe a little lost in who they are, who they want to be, what their next steps are? What's one piece of advice you could share with them?
Yeah, I would say accept yourself where you are and know that this is normal. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not, I think someone's medicalized menopause, but it's not a medical thing. It's a perfectly normal transition, and get some support, find an OBGYN. Personally, I have had a lot of people who've had great success with hormone replacement therapy. That's a decision you need to make yourself with your physician, but there is so much information and so much help out there. Diet makes a huge difference. Movement makes a huge difference. If you're suffering, you don't have to suffer. There's so many ways that you can take care of yourself and your body. And we're getting so much more information about it. People can go to the National Menopause Foundation, the North American Menopause Association, has physicians who specialize in menopause. Certainly people can reach out to me at themidlifewhisperer.com if they want to work with a coach who really specializes in the midlife, transformation. But you don't have to suffer. It's normal, but you don't have to okay, I'm just going to grin and bear it, because honestly, it can be 10 years. I mean, we can start the perimenopause. Menopause is the moment when we've gone a year without having a period. So we can, start to experience this hormone fluctuations years before we actually have that stop. And so there's so much, and it's also really important to take care of your body, because those changes in estrogen actually determine your future in terms of how healthy you are. So get some support. I know that wasn't just one thing, but it's normal. Get support, get more information, and please don't feel ashamed, like it's something that you have to duck and cover. I think that's something our moms did. Nobody talked about it, and we're talking about it and we're normalizing it. And there's a ton of information and support out there for you.
You are absolutely amazing. One more time, can you share your website, where people can purchase your book, listen to your podcast, connect with you?
Sure. Well, it's themidlifewhisperer.com. That's themidlifewhisperer.com. The book is Rock Your Midlife. That's Rock Your Midlife. The podcast is also Rock Your Midlife. The book is on Amazon. You can also just go to your bookseller and ask them to order it for you as well. And I am the_midlife_whisper on Instagram if you want to see me dance, because I have so much energy. I guess the other thing to say to people too is I am having so much fun. I am, empty nest, blindness, breast cancer, divorce. I went through menopause, all of it. And now I'm in a great relationship. I've got a great relationship with my kids. I live in Vermont half the year, in Costa Rica half the year. I love my career. I love my life. I feel fantastic. So there is so much light on the other side, and you really can create a life you love wherever you are. So don't give up on yourself, love yourself, and you will transform.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.